Jerome Walton's final major league team was the expansion Tampa Bay Devil Rays. In the spring of 1998, he appeared in 12 games and collected 11 hits. Then, on May 26th, Tampa Bay released him. That ending creates a contradiction. Walton was 32 years old, playing for a brand new franchise and still getting hits in the limited chances reflected by the record. 9 years earlier, he had been the National League Rookie of the Year, the center fielder for a division champion, and one of the most visible young players in Chicago. So what happened between those 2 points? Did Jerome Walton collapse after one spectacular season, or did his career change more slowly and more quietly than people remember? By May of 1998, Walton was wearing his 6th major league uniform. The Devil Rays were new to everything. New uniforms, new history, a new place in the American League East. Inside Tropicana Field, under the fixed roof and artificial light, every player on the roster was helping establish the first record of a franchise that had never played a game before. Walton arrived with a history Tampa Bay could not manufacture. He had played in pennant races, appeared in 3 postseasons, and spent a decade learning how quickly a major league role could expand or disappear. His final game came on May 6th against Kansas City. He started in center field and had 1 hit in 3 at-bats. There was no documented farewell ceremony and no final trip around the league.
His name simply stopped appearing in major league games. 20 days later, the Devil Rays made the separation official. 11 hits in 12 games sounds like evidence that he could still contribute, but that number has limits. The source does not provide the complete plate appearance context, the club's roster reasoning, or an explanation for the release. A brief run of hits cannot tell us everything an organization considered. What it does tell us is that Walton's ending cannot be explained by a clean, dramatic moment when he suddenly lost the ability to play. To understand how he reached that point, the trail has to go back to Chicago, to a rookie season that was far more substantial than a few months of excitement. Walton came from Newnan, Georgia, where he attended Newnan High School before moving on to Enterprise State Junior College in Alabama. The Cubs selected him in the 2nd round of the 1986 draft, 36th overall. Less than 3 years later, he was in their opening day lineup. On April 4, 1989, Wrigley Field still had the look of early season Chicago. The old manual scoreboard stood above center field. The ivy along the outfield wall had not yet reached its summer fullness. The brick, the rooftops, and the close press of the grandstands made a young center fielder's first major league game feel anything but distant. The Philadelphia Phillies were in town. Walton came to the plate 4 times. He collected 2 hits and drove in a run.
A debut like that changes the speed of everything. One day, a player is trying to establish that he belongs. By the end of the afternoon, the crowd has seen the first evidence that he might become something more. For Walton, that first game was the opening line of a season that would place him inside Cubs history. He played 116 games in 1989 and batted .293. In that year's National League, only 6 qualified hitters finished with a higher average. He stole 24 bases, giving Chicago another way to turn a single or a walk into pressure on the defense. He was also hit by 6 pitches, one of the higher totals in the league, a small measure of how often his body became part of the cost of reaching base. Then came the streak. For 30 consecutive games, Walton got at least 1 hit. A month of baseball passed without a hitless box score beside his name. Each day extended the expectation into the next one, and each plate appearance carried more attention than the one before it. Around Wrigley Field, fans tracked his average with the Jerome-O-Meter, an adaptation of the Shea-On-O-Meter associated with Cubs shortstop Sheon Dunston. It was an unmistakably Chicago expression of the moment. A player's batting average turned into a public event,
updated as the summer moved and the crowd followed every rise and fall. If you were watching the Cubs in 1989, that kind of season lived beyond the final score.
It was on the television graphic, in the morning paper, on the radio during the drive home, and in the conversation before the next day's first pitch. Walton's average was no longer just his number. Cubs fans had made it part of their season. Chicago won the National League East, and Walton reached October during his first year in the majors. The Cubs met the San Francisco Giants in the National League Championship Series, beginning at Wrigley Field before the series moved west to Candlestick Park. The environments could hardly have been mistaken for one another. Wrigley held the sound close, with the neighborhood crowd pressed toward the field. Candlestick opened into the cold air off the bay, where wind and late-day shadows were part of the setting. Across 5 games, with the National League pennant hanging over every at-bat, Walton kept hitting. He finished the series with 8 hits and a .364 average. Those numbers meant that the rookie season survived the change in stakes. The pitching was postseason pitching, the opposing defense was postseason defense, and Walton still produced. But the Cubs lost the series in 5 games. The clubhouse result and the individual result moved in opposite directions. Chicago's season ended, while Walton's performance strengthened the case that his arrival was real. When the awards were counted, he became the 1989 National League Rookie of the Year. No Cub had won that honor since Ken Hubbs in 1962.
Walton also received votes for Most Valuable Player and finished 13th in the voting. His defense supported the larger picture. He posted a .990 fielding percentage in center field, the 3rd best mark in the league at the position. No single defensive statistic can define an outfielder, especially from that era, but the available evidence shows that Walton's rookie contribution extended beyond his batting average. That matters because the rest of his career is sometimes compressed into the shape of a familiar baseball story. One great year, followed by disappearance. The record does not move that quickly. Walton returned in 1990 and batted .263. The average had fallen 30 points, a meaningful decline from the standard he had established, but it did not amount to an immediate offensive collapse. His defense became less tidy in one visible respect. He committed 6 errors in center field, the 4th highest total in the National League. The following season complicates the picture again. In 1991, Total Zone credited Walton with 11 runs above average in center field, 2nd in the league. His range factor per 9 innings ranked 3rd. Those measures are estimates rather than complete explanations, but they indicate that he could still provide real value with his glove, even as the excitement surrounding his bat receded. Across the 3 seasons after his rookie year, Walton appeared in a combined 254 games for Chicago.
The center fielder, who had played 116 games in 1989, was no longer moving through a full season with the same hold on the job. Then came 1992. Walton batted .127. A batting average that low changes the immediate terms of a career. It means long stretches without a hit, fewer opportunities to recover, and increasing pressure on every appearance. After the season, the Cubs granted him free agency. The available material does not tell us why his offense declined that far. There is no documented injury explanation here, no account of a mechanical breakdown, no statement from a manager, and no testimony from Walton describing what he believed had changed. Timing can show us where the career turned. It cannot, by itself, identify the cause. What can be established is that Walton's Chicago career ended after that season. The only major league organization he had known, the club with which he had won Rookie of the Year and reached the postseason, was no longer his employer. The California Angels signed him in January 1993.
Anaheim offered a new league, a new organization, and the possibility of separating the next season from the 127 average that preceded it. The Big A was a very different baseball setting from Wrigley. Broad outfield spaces, a multi-purpose stadium, and a scoreboard structure rising beyond the park. Yet Walton's entire major league record with the Angels was remarkably small. He played in 5 games.
He had 2 official at-bats and went hitless, drew 1 walk, stole 1 base, and scored twice. Then the appearances stopped. On August 20, California released him. 4 years after a 30-game hitting streak had made each of his at-bats an event in Chicago, Walton had passed through an American League club with only 2 official at-bats. The contrast measures more than performance. It measures access. A player cannot rebuild a major league identity from the batter's box when he is almost never sent there. That problem was larger than batting average. The salary record makes Walton's changing position visible in terms anyone can understand. Chicago paid him a listed salary of $68,000 as a rookie in 1989. By 1992, that figure had reached $525,000, reflecting the expectations created by his first season. With California in 1993, it fell to $250,000. Then came the August release. A transaction line can make this sound mechanical: signed, used sparingly, released. In human terms, Walton had gone from the highest individual honor available to a National League rookie to losing his job in the middle of a season, all within 4 years. The source does not tell us how he experienced that change, and it would be wrong to supply an emotion for him. But the circumstance is recognizable far beyond baseball. An earlier achievement can remain on a resume even after the next employer has decided to move on.
For Walton, the award could preserve his name, but only another club could extend his career. The next question was whether one would. Still, 5 games with the Angels did not end his career. Cincinnati signed him for 1994, and what happened there is the strongest evidence against treating Walton as a player who simply ceased to be productive after 1989. He appeared in 46 games for the Reds and batted .309. Because the role was limited, the average does not carry the same weight as a full season of everyday work. It does show that when Cincinnati used him, Walton could still produce major league hits. In 1995, the opportunity grew. He played in 102 games and batted .290. It was his largest major league workload since his Cubs years, and he responded with his strongest extended offensive season since 1989. By then, however, the shape of his career had changed. Walton was no longer being asked to establish himself as a franchise center fielder. He had become the kind of veteran who could start when needed, come off the bench, cover the outfield, and try to make limited at-bats carry maximum value. Fans who lived through National League Baseball in the mid-1990s will remember those roster players. Familiar names moving from club to club, appearing in a Sunday lineup or entering late in a close game, expected to be ready without the rhythm an everyday player receives.
Their careers were measured not only in seasons, but in the next contract and the next reason for a team to keep them. Cincinnati returned to the postseason in 1995. Walton received 11 combined plate appearances and drew 1 walk, but did not collect a hit. October had once confirmed his rookie season success. This time, the limited opportunities produced no such moment. After the season, he became a free agent again. Atlanta signed him in January 1996, and Walton delivered another strong average in a small role. He played 37 games and batted .340. A .340 average attracts attention in any context.
Over 37 games, it cannot prove that Walton would have sustained that level through a full schedule. It does establish something narrower and important. 7 years after his Rookie of the Year season, he could still help a major league team with his bat. Atlanta did not retain him beyond the year. Walton entered free agency and signed with Baltimore for 1997. The Orioles reached the postseason, giving him another October opportunity, but he went hitless in 4 total plate appearances. Baltimore granted him free agency after the season. Tampa Bay then signed him in January 1998, bringing the career back to the 12-game final chapter where this investigation began. The pattern across these later seasons is clear. Walton produced strong batting averages for Cincinnati and Atlanta. He also encountered recurring free agency, limited roles, brief postseason chances, and no permanent home.
Productivity could earn him another contract. It could no longer guarantee the standing he had enjoyed in Chicago. There is a temptation to let the award define the whole man. Rookie of the Year at 23, followed by everything he did not become. That frame misses too much of the actual record. Walton spent 10 seasons in the major leagues. He played for the Cubs, Angels, Reds, Braves, Orioles, and Devil Rays. He finished with 427 hits, a 2.69 batting average, 25 home runs, 132 runs batted in, and 58 stolen bases. Those are not the totals of a long-term star. They are also more than a single season preserved in amber. Roughly 2/3 of Walton's career hits came outside 1989. His rookie year remained the peak, but his career continued through adaptation. Less playing time, less security, and repeated demands to establish his usefulness in a new uniform. So, did Jerome Walton's career collapse immediately after his Rookie of the Year season? The record says no. His batting average declined in 1990, while later defensive measures indicate that he still brought value in center field. The sharpest break arrived in 1992, when he hit 127, followed by free agency and almost no major league opportunity with California in 1993. That sequence changed his professional standing. What caused the decline cannot be determined from the supplied record. It does not support a specific claim about injury, mechanics, confidence, managerial treatment, or roster politics.
The most defensible finding is simpler. Reduced offensive production, culminating in 1992, cost Walton his place as an established Cub. From then on, his opportunities became shorter and less secure. Yet the second half of the record matters just as much. Walton rebuilt enough value to hit .309 and .290 in consecutive seasons for Cincinnati. He batted .340 in a limited role for Atlanta. Even in his final 12 games, he collected 11 hits. That did not restore 1989. Baseball rarely returns a player to the exact place where the public first knew him. The defining contrast is between 2 ways of being visible. In Chicago, fans used the Jerome-O-Meter to follow his average through a 30-game hitting streak. With Tampa Bay 9 years later, his last game arrived without ceremony, followed by a transaction near the end of May. Between those images was a complete major league career, an outstanding rookie season, a gradual loss of position, a severe offensive low, and 5 more organizations willing to see whether he could still help. Jerome Walton was neither a one-year illusion nor a hidden superstar after his Chicago peak. He was a legitimate Rookie of the Year who never again held the same role, and a working major leaguer who remained useful long after stardom had passed. His career did not vanish after 1989. It narrowed, changed shape, and continued for nearly a decade, all the way to 11 final hits on baseball's newest team.